Today on the WhereTraveler Podcast, our host Teresa Rodriguez talks with John E. DeScala, who's perhaps better known to a lot of people by the nom de plume Johnny Jet. His website, johnnyjet.com, is a polestar of information about travel. If you're looking for travel news, tips on getting around, where to stay, what to do, navigating airports, lodging, ground transportation, booking, travel apps, credit cards, rewards programs, travel insurance, style, products, videos, Instagrammers, where to shop, tips from pilots. There's so much info on johnnyjet.com that it's hard to imagine the whole idea came from a friendly competition among pals to see who could rack up the most reward points. And that Johnny, who crushed the contest, spent years growing up with a terrible fear of flying. Well, he's come an awfully long way, often traveling 150,000 miles and visiting 20 countries a year. And the best part is he's got a knack for finding out the best a place or a service or an experience has to offer and then writing about it. His writing on the topic of travel has been plugged over 10,000 times in major publications like the USA Today, the New York Times, and Fortune magazine. You've probably seen him on ABC, NBC, CNBC, MSNBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, PBS, and of course the Travel Channel, where he hosted Hotspots. You should visit the website johnnyjet.com if you're going anywhere, if you're thinking about going anywhere, or if you aspire to someday go somewhere. Johnny will show you how to do it with comfort, style, and convenience. Now, if you like what we do, please subscribe and give the WhereTraveler Podcast a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to the podcast. Teresa and Johnny talk in this episode about how best to travel with children. They give you tips on gear and the commandment for traveling with a child or with children. We think you're going to love the sense of adventure in this episode, and you're going to love our special guest today, Johnny Jet.
You're listening to the WhereTraveler Podcast, the audio companion for WhereTraveler magazine in print and online. For more information, go to wheretraveler.com. And now, Teresa Rodriguez, Editor-in-Chief for WhereTraveler San Francisco.
Hi, this is Teresa Rodriguez with WhereTraveler Podcast, and today we have a really special show for you. I'm here with Johnny Jet. He is one of the top travel writers and experts in the United States. And I was able to meet with him in 2006 when our lives were completely different. Today, we're going to be talking about something pretty special, traveling with kids. Johnny, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, it's nice to be back with you, connected. I will always remember our flight to Iceland and our great trip there.
Yeah, that was a fantastic week in Iceland. Well, at the time, my life situation was different. I wasn't a mom, and you were not a father yet. And so I think now traveling for us has taken on a whole new meaning. And I would love to chat with you today about it because I know that our listeners are, so many of them are parents and, always wondering, how do I do it? And as a travel expert in your own right, and now a father, I would love to discuss, some of the, pre-travel tips that you have, airplane tips, car trips and tips and all of that fun stuff. So let's talk about you. You are a father. Your son's how old now?
He's almost 3.
Oh my goodness. And you have another one on her way, right?
And I sure do. In 1 month.
Oh my gosh. Well, what was the biggest changes that you found when you became a parent?
Wow, what were the biggest changes? Well,
yeah, in travel.
Everyone used to tell
besides the not sleeping part.
Yeah. Although my wife's been a warrior. She's like, you know what, just go sleep in the other room. At least one of us gets a good night's sleep.
Yeah,
so
that's
she's
great.
Amazing. Everyone told me that once you have children, you're never going to travel again. Because I used to go to 20 countries a year. And although part of that was true, but most of it was not. So the first 8 months, Jack did not get on a plane. We wanted to make sure that he was, well vaccinated and also old enough to take these long flights and things like that. But once he hit 8 months old, he's flown a lot. He's been on over 60 flights now, and he's been all over, and he loves it. And we were just not sure what kind of traveler he would be, and that was one of our biggest things. Is like, how is the ears going to do? So we learn all kinds of tips to make sure that my wife breastfed on takeoff and landing, and that was really important. I think that every new parent should make sure that they're either, if they're not breastfeeding, they at least have a bottle on takeoff and landing for their ears. And there's just all kinds of different gadgets that we learned about, and tricks and tips that I could talk about for a half hour.
Good. Let's start. What was some pre-travel tips, or what do you pack that you would not think about packing if you did not have children?
Well, the first thing we found that was like a lifesaver was a stroller car seat called a Doona, Doona. Have you heard of that one?
I have.
Okay, well, that thing.
But I did not have one of those. I actually had an Orbit, and I got the Orbit stuck in the metal detector in Mexico City and destroyed the metal detector. So I bet yours was a lot better to go through the metal detector.
It was, although ours did get stuck once because I put it in the wrong way. If you lie it flat like you're supposed to, it won't get stuck. But one time it did get stuck, and it didn't destroy it, but it took like 20 minutes for them to open up the machine.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point with parents is make sure that whatever car seat or stroller that you take, especially on international trips, when you have to go through customs and you have to go through security, make sure that it fits.
For sure.
And it can collapse, because a few of those don't collapse very well.
Right. So with the Doona, it collapses just one press of the button, really. And also you can bring it onto the plane as a car seat, and it's FAA approved. It's every European approved, but we got it right when it first came out. And so flight attendants were like, this is not FAA approved. And I had to turn it over, show it to them. We even had one airline tell Aer Lingus said that we could not bring it. We had to put it in the overhead bin.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing that no one knew about these things. And with the Doona, to strap into a Uber car seat, I mean, you just put it right into an Uber or whatever car you're doing. You can do it in 30 seconds. We never had to schlep it, so we always had a stroller.
I think the thing with the Doona that people should know is that it is one piece, so you don't have to take the wheels off and put the wheel section with a lot of the strollers, put that in the trunk. It all just collapses into one beautiful piece. Correct?
It sure does. It works so well. It's beautiful like that. But also another thing that we learned is going through security. You can have more than 3 ounces of milk. So they're like, how are we going to do this? Because some airports don't have concession stands on the other side. So always you're going to take. You can always bring your baby bottle and have them test it going through security. So make sure you bring plenty of food and drink for the baby.
Yeah, one of the other mistakes I made is I flew to Mexico first class, and I had my daughter. She was only 18 months old, so she was allowed to sit on my lap through the flight. I put her diaper bag above in the overhead compartment, and I did not have any diapers with me in the seat. I only had one diaper on her, and she, of course, went to the bathroom before takeoff, and we were stuck on the tarmac for 45 minutes, and the flight attendant wouldn't let me change her diaper. But number one, everybody in first class was absolutely distraught because it smelled like my daughter's diaper. 2, I didn't have anything near me to help with the smell or changing or anything. So on the way back from Mexico, I relinquished my first class ticket and went and sat in the back of the plane with her, because it's just not worth using a first class seat when you have such a young infant, and there's so many mishaps that can happen.
Well, I actually disagree with you on that.
I wasn't prepared. That was my
time, sitting in first class or coach and listening to babies screaming and all that stuff. So, my time is due. I've had some credits, but also we did learn to always pack an extra outfit, not only for the baby, but also for the adult. And actually, I snapped the picture once. Jack only threw up once on the plane, and he threw up all over my wife, and she didn't have a change of clothes. It was right after takeoff. So she had to sit on a plane, the whole flight in throw up.
Yep.
So we've now learned to have a backpack, change of clothes for everyone, actually a couple change of clothes for the baby. And that makes a big difference. And you know what? And not even if you don't have a baby, you should have a change of clothes, because I've actually heard stories of people having wine spilled on them and things like that.
Oh yeah, or even having, if they don't carry a carry-on, their luggage getting misplaced and stuck in a European destination or wherever without their luggage until the airline can find it. So yeah,
happened to us as
definitely.
Well. So actually, just recently. So what we do is when we pack our bags, we usually put, if we're checking 2 bags, which we now do since we have a baby, before we do carry on only, we would put half of our clothes in each. That way, if they lose one, at least we are somewhat prepared for.
Got it. So you 2 different pieces of luggage. You check in 2 pieces of luggage. I see what you're saying. So both pieces of luggage are mirrors of each other. So you've got clothes for you, clothes for Jack, clothes for your wife, all in
both pieces.
The 2 luggages.
You got it.
That's brilliant. Aha! I never thought of that, and you would think that I would have thought of that.
And you never check anything important like medicine, and things like that. I mean, regardless if you have a baby or not, or anything valuable, because they won't, if it gets stolen or crushed, they won't reimburse you or replace it.
Yeah, that's true. I had that happen to me when I was doing a TEDx talk in Wilmington, and I didn't know what shoes I was going to wear. So I brought all these really, really expensive shoes, but I only had my carry-on. But by the time I got onto the flight, all the carry-on, the overhead was filled, and I didn't have a lock on my carry-on. So this was a lesson I learned as well. And so I just handed it over, and they stole shoes out of my bag between the flight from leaving SFO and landing in Wilmington.
Wow. Yeah.
And it wouldn't have happened if I had a lock on my carry-on. So I think too, just in case you do need to, if the overhead compartments are full and you have to have your luggage checked in, to make sure that you do carry a TSA lock inside your carry-on bag, that you can just lock it up.
For sure. Or you can get it, if you're traveling internationally, you can get it wrapped with that like rhino wrap, whatever they call it.
Yeah, but it was the last minute. I made it through. I was all the way on the plane.
Gotcha.
And they ran out of overhead space.
Nice.
And so they took my luggage, but I didn't have a lock. So if I just had, one of those $10 locks, I would have saved a few $100s worth of shoes. And the other thing too that I learned is that if you don't report it within 24 hours, they will not.
Oh yeah, you had to report it before leaving the airport.
Yeah, I didn't know, because I literally went to the conference and was running around getting my shoes on, and it wasn't until I was flying back home that I was like, wait, I'm missing like 3 pairs of shoes in here. So
yeah, it's and also when you're traveling, by the way, when parents are just exhausted and everyone's sleeping on the plane, you also have to worry about your carry-on in the overhead bin, that if you have anything valuable that, there are some flights, especially the long ones, where other passengers go in and steal your valuables. So you always want to keep your eye on it. And what I do is I actually put my bag usually in the overhead bin across the aisle for me, so I can see it, because they'll even do it right above your head, because you don't know what they're doing. And I also put in the zippers first, so that way, if they need to get the bag, they have to take it out. They can't just open up the thing and just unzip it and grab something.
That's a great idea. So now we've flown, we've got our kids in the plane, we've landed on our destination. Can you tell us some tips about once you get to your destination with your children?
For sure, but one more quick thing, another device that we use is we have this thing. It's a blow up. What's it called? The tot, something tot. It'll come to me. But anyway, you blow it up at your seat, and if you're flying coach, you put it in front of the baby's seat, and it turns their seat into a first class seat, because they can now across the whole. They have basically the length of their body. So where your feet usually are placed, that's where your baby's laying. So
is it called fly tot?
Fly tot, you got it. That's it. It's you kind of look like a weirdo blowing it up on the plane, but once you have it blown up and everyone walks by and other passengers and flight attendants are like, "Oh my God, that's genius!" and the baby's sleeping, and you have a blanket, a nice pillow. And listen, my boy flies first class even when he's flying coach because of that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, so it's called Fly Tot, and it's just an inflatable cushion that fits between the seat, your seat, his seat, and the seat in front of him.
Yep. And what we usually do is always book the bulkhead, because you don't have to worry about a seat coming back behind you, cramping your space even more. He can run around a little bit when he is up, when he's able to, when they're 1 year old and they want to run.
They do like to run.
Yes, and that is. And actually, another tip for flying, by the way, we always bring a bag of like Hershey Kisses on the plane for the flight attendants, and we have Jack hand it to the flight attendants, and they just eat him up. They just love him for that. They give him special, they always take good care of him. He also wears a captain hat, and we have a flight log book. And actually, a lot of the airlines give them away for free. I know American Airlines does, British Airways does, and it's a flight log, and you have the pilot sign it, and they put in all the information, how many miles, so that way when your child is old enough, they'll be able to see all the flights they took, how far they went, even the planes they flew on. It's great. And
so how many flights you said he's already been on? 60?
Over 60.
Wow. My God, he's already earned his wings, that child. That's fantastic. So we've arrived in our destination. We've deflated our flight tot. We've got our Duna.
Yep.
How do we get off this plane?
Okay, so the next thing you do is actually traveling with children actually has its benefits, which I did not know before. So, for example, one time we were at LaGuardia Airport, and the line was so long for a taxi, and the Uber waits were ridiculous, and you had to walk a long distance. So we're sitting in the back of this long taxi line, and the taxi dispatcher came up and said, "Oh, you have a child? You don't need to wait in the line. Go right to the front."
Oh.
And we've done it many times now. And they just cut you right to the front, and you get the next available cab. And people are looking at you like, what? I should have had a child. So that definitely has its benefits. Also, you need to find a car that has a car seat if you're not bringing one. So having the Duna is great. But when they grow out of it, I think it's 30 pounds or 35 pounds. They're too old. So usually when they're 2 years old or 2.5 years old, they're going to be too old. So for the Duna, so then you need either SLEPA car seat.
I'm Teresa Rodriguez, Editor-in-Chief of Where San Francisco, and you're listening to WhereTraveler Podcast, where we love to talk about anything related to travel. For more information about this episode, as well as WhereTraveler, be sure to check out WhereTraveler.com.
They're going to be too old, so for the Duna, so then you need either SLEPA car seat, or you need to book ones that book a car service or a car rental that has them. And car rentals, they charge $10 a day for car seats. And they're the cheapest car seats ever. Like I would probably, if you're going to be there for a week or longer, I would just go to the store and buy one. Those are on one of their brand ambassadors, which is a luxury car service. And they don't charge for car seats, but they do cost a lot more than a ride share. But you also get what you pay for. And so there's things like that really helps. And also traveling with kids, we use a thing that Black Lane has called Airport Concierge. So if we're flying international, right when we get off the plane, we have someone holding our name up, and they will take our bags and they'll walk us to the front of the customs line, immigration line, and then put us into the car service. And that they just raised the price. It's $200 for the first person, and then it depends where you're going. But I mean, if you're a single mother or a single parent traveling with children, to have that extra hand really helps.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, no kidding. One of the things I got, because I have been in situations where we've ordered Ubers. I've been with a group of friends with kids. It was actually after roller skating, we ordered an Uber, and the Uber driver wouldn't take us because we didn't have car seats for the kids. I have it's called a MyFold, and it's just it's a little grab and go car seat booster. They need to be a little bit older, so they have to be booster size. But it literally fits in my purse, and I can take it when I go out with my daughter, and we just strap it in. Super easy to use. And I keep it in the car too for other children who I have, happen to drive around.
It's called MyFold. Yeah, we just got another one that similar to that. But still for someone who's like 3 years old, and we haven't used it yet, but we will. And it's a compact one that you can travel with, so you don't have to lug something around. And that really helps.
Because lugging, I mean, I look at these poor parents who've got a few kids and they're lugging their car seats around. It can be, plus the luggage, right? It's just one extra thing that you have to deal with when you travel.
Yep.
And the truth is, though, it's like some countries you do not need to use car seats when you travel. So, I'm always one that says, look to see what the rules are at the destination that you're going.
For sure. And there's actually here in the U.S., I've had Uber drivers, say it's fine, especially in Vegas. We took Jack to Vegas, and we'd just be going across the street, and they're like, you can't order a car seat. They don't have car seats. And
right.
Some drivers, they'll look the other way, which, it's not the safest thing to do, but when you're desperate, it's either raining or really hot out, and you got to get back to the hotel, or the baby's sick or whatever, you got to do what you got to do.
Right. And the truth is that, we bounced around in the back of cars for years without car seats. So
coming home from the hospital, I would be in my mom's arms in the passenger seat.
Exactly. So, so I think that's another thing, is not to be too hyper vigilant with children. Always there's a very careful balance between being super careful and then being overly careful where your trip is ruined because you're so worried about bacteria and car seats and water and So how do you manage that balance?
Well, like when we get on the plane, we usually wipe down the seats, but the problem with Jack would sit there and lick the window, and I'm like, and I'm like, this is not going to end well. But I guess his immune system must be strong, because he would chew on the the magazine holder, which is one of the dirtiest on the plane, and we're like, please. So if you take your eye off of them for a second, they're on the window. So we do try and wipe down the seats, but not always. And also, if in a car rental, I mean, even when I don't have my son with me, I wipe down the hotel room remote control. That's one of the dirtiest things in the room, just for myself. But when you're traveling with a baby, we always travel with edge corners, because hotel rooms, they have a lot of, like, the nightstands, they have these really hard corners. None of them are rounded, or tables. And so what we do is it costs like $15. You get like a pack of 16 of them. And I stick them on the corners of all the edges in the hotel rooms. And then I make a note to take them off right before we leave. And that is a very helpful tip. Oh,
I've never even thought of that. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Now, are there certain types of medications that you bring with you everywhere you travel when you're?
For sure. Like children's Benadryl, an EpiPen, since Jack has a nut allergy. We travel with, my wife has a whole thing, but she has a whole bag of stuff to travel with, and she brings it on the plane. One time she forgot to bring the children's Benadryl on the plane. It was in the hold, and another passenger came up to us and said, since you have a baby, do you have any children's Benadryl? Because our baby's sick. And we're like, you know what? It's in the hold. And we felt bad. And, we realized that we should always have it on the plane, in the cabin. So there's a list of stuff. You definitely want to consult your doctor and find out exactly what you should bring. But even when I travel alone, I have everything. I have anti-diarrhea, I have Tums, I have Band-Aids, I have a little first aid kit, Tylenol, and things like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think when we grow up, we're like, oh yeah, we don't need it. But then I'm like, oh yeah, until you're.
And also travel insurance, by the way.
Let's talk about travel insurance.
Another full disclosure, I'm one of Allianz's brand ambassadors, but even if I was not, I would be talking about getting travel insurance, and these guys are the biggest. But it's, Jack had to go to the hospital one time when we were in New York City. He had to go to the emergency room. The bill was $2,000 just to go to the emergency room for 2 hours. Unfortunately,
what happened to him?
Insurance. He had a high fever. So actually, there was another service called, based on the service, but there's a service where the doctor specializes in babies, and they come to the hotel room, and it was only like $150. So we paid it, and they came to the room, and they were great, and they kept monitoring Jack, and they're like, you know what, he should go to the hospital because his fever's so high. And so we jump in an Uber and go right to the hospital, and next thing you know, the bill is $2,000, but fortunately he was fine. travel insurance paid it a couple of months later. So I'm a huge fan of that, no matter where you're traveling. And I always have it as well, not just for having a baby, but it's important. It's just a good peace of mind. So if anything ever does happen, God forbid, at least you're financially covered. And I've heard horror stories from so many people, and there's even places in the world, including Mexico, where if you get sick, you cannot get treatment until you pay. You want to make sure you have enough money on your credit card or whatever you're using, hopefully a credit card. If you have travel insurance, you can get it reimbursed. If you don't, you're out. That's it.
Right. Right. That's a really great tip. I think what I love is preventative steps to take before you leave. So when you get to wherever you're going to have a fantastic time. Are there certain types of clothing that you definitely bring? Or like, I know that diapers, oh my God, the diapers in different countries aren't the same as the ones in the United States. Right. Did you find, diaper quality different? Do you bring a ton of diapers? Do you bring enough for the flight? I mean, what's your
we bring
MO
enough
for the diaper situation?
We bring enough diapers, especially when we're traveling overseas. But there's been times when we'd have to go to, Target or somewhere when we're in the U.S. and just reload. But because we check bags and we put a whole sleeve, like 100 diapers in there, and I even put them in like my carry-on bag as an extra, just in case we go through them on a plane or whatever. So you always want to make sure you have extra diapers and wipes, and also actually a good travel tip, by the way, is if you go to the beach, you wrap your valuables in a diaper and you put it, and people think it's a dirty diaper and they're not going to touch that thing.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So
I love it.
Yes.
That's an awesome idea. So what's going to be your next trip?
Well, my wife's about to give birth, so she is not flying. She hasn't flown in the last 2 months. She's been grounded. Our kids probably won't be on a plane until maybe April. We'll wait till after flu season. So actually another thing we don't fly them during flu season normally.
Oh.
Especially the last 2 years have been really bad, especially 2 years ago. Last year he flew a couple times during flu season just because it wasn't as bad and because we needed to go for work or whatever it was. But we would actually splurge for first class so there'd be less people around us and things like that.
And when is flu season?
It all depends, but December to April.
Okay. I think that's a really good tip too. And how about vaccinating? Can Jack get vaccinated for the flu?
Yeah, 6 months. That's 6
months.
But again, you obviously consult your doctor for all this stuff. But we were going to Europe, and the doctor's like, well, I wouldn't go to Europe without getting a measles shot because there's a measles outbreak. And this was before measles was in the news in America. And so we're like, really? He's got to get it. And just because we were leaving like a few days before his first birthday, she's like, well, he's going to need to get a booster shot. So he's going to need to get an extra shot. And that really was a big decision. Do we want to do it? But, looking back, I think it was the right move because you hear about so many people getting measles, and especially the kids who are vulnerable. So that's why we won't travel with our daughter that's due until she gets her vaccinations.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, with especially like whooping coughs or things that we don't find normally here in, first world situations. But there's people that are traveling that are coming in from other countries and that don't necessarily have the same vaccination rules that we do here. And that if your child is not vaccinated for whatever could be out there, it could be deadly and super scary as well.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, this has been just so fascinating. It's I love watching the evolution of your travel from, these exotic locations by yourself and, now being a father and a family man and really looking at travel, still enjoying it.
For sure.
But also taking all of these fantastic precautions that is going to give you even more enjoyment once you land in your destination. Does Jack have a favorite destination?
He says Hawaii or London.
Or London.
Yeah, I mean,
why London?
We took him to the park. I mean, he likes going to the park, running around. He can do anything.
Yeah. And I think too that with travel with children, it really just opens up their view of the world and their perspective.
Without a doubt.
Such, I think it's the best gift that you can give a child is travel and the perspective of other cultures and communities and countries. And I even think that it's not necessarily important to get on a plane, go into another country. You can even get the kids in the car and just go to another little city, an hour away from where you live that has something unique and interesting.
Without a doubt. I tell people that all the time. We live in Los Angeles. You just drive 20 minutes and you're in another neighborhood, and it's completely different. And we actually do these staycations often, especially now since my wife can't fly. So, they just get to see a whole new part of the town. It's just, it feels like you're out of town.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like a world away sometimes, but you don't have to go all the way across the world.
No, you don't need to. Because my daughter and I just went and had a staycation at the Sir Francis Drake. Nice. And we looked out the window and we could see the top of our apartment building, but it was, being with mommy and being in bed and, having room service and playing in the lobby. And, it's just those fantastic little moments that really give kids memories.
For sure. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you, Mr. Johnny Jet. How can people find you online?
It is, my handles are Johnny Jet, JohnNnyjet. I'm not related to Joan, so it's just one T. And my website's johnnyjet.com. And hopefully you sign up to my free newsletter.
Yeah, you've got millions of subscribers now, I'm sure.
Well, I'm trying.
Well, thank you. This is Teresa Rodriguez with WhereTraveler Podcast. We've been here with Johnny Jet, sharing his secrets on how to travel with your family. Once again, Johnny, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for joining me. You've been listening to the WhereTraveler Podcast, hosted by me, Teresa Rodriguez. This episode was produced and directed by Pete A. Turner, John Leon Guerrero, and Victoria Shepard. To listen to this podcast, find out more information about the crew, as well as WhereTraveler, visit WhereTraveler.com, your ultimate destination guide.